Today's topic is concerning the Hebrew word tekufah. I'll go through this two-page study so you can understand how it relates to the solar calendar and the controversy over the calendar, yearly calendar, and also in relation to the weekly cycle, which I'll deal with later or in the next video. I've already dealt with this topic in several other videos on the Branch Insight channel. The word tekufah basically means turn of the year or a cycle, yearly cycle. And in relation to Victor Hadeff's feast day calendar, we see how he emphasizes the start of the year, which is the vernal equinox, which he denotes as March 20th, which it usually does fall March 20th or March 19th, occasionally on March 21st. I'll go into that as well, why there's a difference of dates every few years. But he shows how the equinoxes, the vernal and autumnal equinoxes, are 180 degrees apart on opposite sides of the calendar. Victor Hadeff speaks of this plainly in Three Answer Book, page 11 and 12. And it's very important to determining the truth of the solar calendar, which we can also call it the Jubilee calendar or the Enoch calendar. It's all the same. Victor Hadeff only used the term solar calendar in 13 Code 9 and 10, and I believe in the Answer Book 3. Showing this page from the website timeanddate.com, which I refer to regularly in these series. You can look up the present year of the solstices and the equinox on that site. On this particular page, I have it set to Central Standard Time or Central Time of the United States. You can look it up for any city. Look up the equinoxes and the solstices for any city in the country or around the world. It shows here, for an example, from 1950 to 1999, it shows the various dates of the equinoxes, the equinox, autumnal and vernal. And you'll notice that the date varies slightly every few years, and I'm going to read why that happens. It's the same. I can go up here and change, for instance, from 1950 to 1999 to 2000, from the year 2000 to 2049, and it'll calculate instantly all those different dates for any time zone around the country, so you can look it up yourself. This one has highlighted automatically 2015, showing that it falls on last March. It fell on March 20th. Well, in 2016, the vernal equinox falls on March 19th. Well, why is that? We're going to find out here in a minute. Just to show you that these dates are not set in stone or in cement on a calendar date, because the Gregorian calendar is certainly not God's calendar. It's imperfect as it is. Even the best calendar, even the solar calendar, is imperfect. And Ben Roden stated that very plainly in the Elijah letter. And I'll read that probably in the next video, not this video. In dealing with the challenge against the true Sabbath, the historical Sabbath of the Advent movement, and the importance of recognizing the solar calendar rather than a solar lunar calendar. Victor Hadeff made it clear that God's calendar, or the Creator's calendar, is solar, not lunar, and that's an exact quote. So we're going to look into this, how these, especially the equinox, are shown on the calendar. Here on the same website, timeanddate.com, the question is asked, why does the March equinox fall on different dates? Many cultures, I'm just going to read through it. It's a very short article. Many cultures claim March 21st as the date of the March equinox. In reality, the equinox can happen on March 19, 20, or 21. In the 21st century, a March 21st equinox in universal time, which is Greenwich Mean Time, which is in Greenwich, England, where all of our time zones are based, happens only twice, in 2003 and 2007. All dates and times in this article refer to the equinox in UTC, or Universal Time. Due to time zone differences, the equinox may occur a day later in locations ahead of UTC or a day earlier in locations behind UTC. Sun directly overhead the equator. An equinox is an exact instant when the Earth's celestial equator, which is the equator, or the center part of the Earth divided, far south from North America, is the equator's imaginary projection into space, and it intersects with the center of the Sun. At this moment, the Sun is directly overhead the equator of the Earth, and the Earth's rotational axis is tilted neither towards or away from the Sun. In any given calendar year, this happens twice, first in March 20, and then again around September 22nd. 10 things about the March equinox you should know. Many people around the world celebrate the whole day, usually March 21, as the March equinox. In reality, however, it occurs at a specific moment in time, and its date at any given location is determined by the exact instant when the Sun is overhead the equator. Varying equinox dates. Because of this, the March equinox can happen on March 19, 20, or 21. The last time the March equinox was on March 21 was in 2007. It will happen again in 2101. Due to the time zone differences, the equinox may occur a day earlier in locations that are behind UTC. Take the example of mainland United States. Even though locations following UTC have seen a March 21 equinox in 2003 and 2007, mainland USA has not and will not see March 21 equinox in the 21st century. Just an interesting little fact there. Between 2016 and 2048, March 19 equinoxes will happen every leap year in Central, Pacific, and Mountain time zones in the United States. In the same period, the years between the leap years will see a March 20 equinox. In locations that are ahead of UTC, the March equinoxes this century will fall on March 19, 20, or 21. Why do the dates change? The March equinox would occur on the same day every year if the Earth took 365 days to make a complete revolution around the Sun, but this is not the case. It takes Earth about 365.25 days on average to go around the Sun once. The Gregorian calendar accounts for this by adding an extra day, the leap day, almost every 4 years. This means that each March equinox occurs about 6 hours later than the previous year's March equinox. This is why the date of the equinox can change. And then it gives an example. You may read through this, pause the video at any time and read through this whole article if you like. It shows an example at the bottom in a graph on how it changes in different locations around the Earth based on the time zones. And the time zones, of course, affect the calendar date when you cross the international date line in the Pacific. So feel free to read this. I'd like to transition into the tekufah study. And it's important to understand what this is, because this is how the calendar that Moses was given operated, based on a solar cycle. What is the tekufah? This is a brief summary. There are 4 texts which tekufah appears: Exodus 34:22, and perform the festival of weeks for yourself, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year. That word turn of the year in the English was translated from the Hebrew, which was the word tekufah. In the actual interlinear Hebrew Bible, if you could read it in the Hebrew, it would say tekufah. It wouldn't say turn of the year. 1 Samuel 1:20, and it came to be at the turn of days that Hannah conceived and bore a son, and called his name Samuel, or Shemuel, because I have asked Yahweh for him. 2 Chronicles 24:23, and it came to be at the turn of the year that the army of Aram came up against him, and they came into Yehudah, or Judah, and Yerushalayim, which is Jerusalem, and destroyed all the rules of the people from among the people, and sent all their spoil to the sovereign of Damascus. And finally, Psalm 19:6, its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit meaning tekufah in Hebrew, to the other end, and naught is hidden from its heat. That verse is speaking about the sun. So the tekufah in one word would be summed up as the word circuit, or a cycle, a yearly cycle, which the sun has only one cycle per year, 365 days. Unlike the moon has a cycle every month. And we'll talk about that probably in the next video also, or the video after. I have a series here lined up. Although there has been some misunderstanding on the meaning and importance of the tekufah cycle in Karaite Jewish understanding and in some Messianic Jewish circles, the truth of it becomes evident as a yearly signpost in the heavens and the starting point every year of the sacred calendar. I've read in Victor Hadif's, probably quoted here, Answer Book 3, where he calls the equinox the yearly signpost, or rather the immovable signpost, in his words. As a branch feastkeeper, we have a more sure word of prophecy in the writings of Victor Hadif in 13 Symbolic Code and Answer Book 3, in Brother Hadif's studies on the calendar from creation. To answer the question of when the Hebrew year begins, Exodus 12:2, when the children of Israel left Egypt, the Passover month, the time to begin observing the spring feasts, I am posting 2 websites below that support what I determined many years ago when I first learned about the Hebrew word tekufah, which is used in several places in the Old Testament. By validation of 2 other witnesses, from a Hebrew perspective, to correctly define and interpret the word tekufah in the astronomical context, we can begin to make sense of the meaning of the solar circuit of the year, or the turn of the year, as the above verses indicates. The beginning of the solar year, or the solar cycle, is seen at the vernal equinox, when the sun rises due east and sets due west, marking the beginning of the Hebrew religious year, the beginning of months, according to Exodus 12:2. That's 12 months to a year. The only time of the year this event could reasonably and logically begin. The spring equinox is clearly determined in Exodus 12 as the beginning of months, because it marks the change of the seasons, thus completing one cycle of the year and beginning a new cycle of the 4 seasons. The weekly cycle is determined from creation week exclusively, counting from the first day of creation, not from the fourth day, when the lights of the heavens were created. The weekly cycle has never been lost in history, never lost to the Jews in their continuous history as a people keeping the weekly Sabbath day. Therefore, the seventh day has been and will ever be continuous. And I have historical documentation, impartial documentation, to back that up, that statement. Ellen White believed this. Victor Houteff believed it. Ben Roden believed it. Lois Roden believed it, and I believe it. Excuse me for making that equivalency there, but I believe it because they taught it.